Hello dear friends, old and new, my name is Mustafa and this is MK Fingerstyle Academy. If you're new to the channel, it is all about fingerstyle content, whether it is tabs and arrangements or tutorials such as this one. I get asked all the time about arranging music for ukulele, or more specifically, fingerstyle ukulele. A lot of you want to play songs that are simply not available on YouTube. And to be honest, there's not a lot of creators like me creating this type of content. So in this video, I'll break down the 5 scenarios I encounter whenever I start an arrangement. I've arranged over 300 pieces in 4 years by now, and I haven't encountered an arrangement that doesn't fit into one of these scenarios. Now before we begin, here's a disclaimer. Since I'm a guitarist, most of my arrangements for the ukulele come from guitar-based songs. It seems like the natural source to start from, and almost all requests I get are from guitar-based music. Think anywhere from Terega, Soar, Caruli to Metallica and Led Zeppelin. Guitar music is cool, popular, and there is no denying that there is some sort of kin relationship between guitar and ukulele, so it is only natural to start there. Scenario number 1. Lookalike. Scenario 1 relies heavily on guitar music, especially music that is written with iconic riffs that are not only recognizable when you hear them, but also recognizable to anyone who played this music on the guitar. This type of arrangement basically copies the original guitar riff and how it looks on the fretboard, or tab if you like to think about it this way, onto the ukulele. If you look at my recent video of Dream On riff tutorial, you'll see that my ukulele tab matches the guitar tab almost fret for fret, with minor adjustments to make it more playable or better suited for the ukulele. If you're writing this arrangement on a piece of paper or simply trying it on the instrument in real time, you would literally be playing the exact frets you see on a guitar tab onto the ukulele. The only problem is, of course, there's no string 5 or 6, so whenever you encounter these notes, you'd have to bring them an octave up to be able to play them on strings 4 and 3 on the ukulele. This, of course, requires fret equivalent knowledge and some theory, which I cover in my ukulele fretboard harmony course. So check it out if you're interested in the video description. If you look at my Nothing Else Matters arrangement, you would see that my riff copies the original guitar riff for the most part. I take some liberty later on in the intro, but the first few bars are identical. You will see that the open E on the guitar is brought an octave up to fret 2 on the 4th string on the ukulele to make it the same key. In this example, it's not a big deal, but in many others, changing an open note for a fretted note can make the arrangement really difficult, if not impossible to play. That's why in my Romanza arrangement, I opted to remove the bass note completely since the key is clearly defined in the melody, and having the open string bass note fretted on the ukulele would make it sound choppy and forced. So you have to test it and see if the whole song can be mirrored on the ukulele. There's a 50-50% chance it won't. If you're creating your tab digitally, this is as simple as copying the guitar riff into a ukulele track and then transposing it a perfect fourth, which works for high G and low G. Then you would just make double sure that all the frets are the same, since the computer would give you the right note, but not always the right fret. Because it is so easy to replicate the frets on the neck, I find this to be the natural starting points for a lot of beginner arrangers. Scenario 2, same key. In some cases, you would be able to take the original track or music and copy it exactly on the ukulele. This is usually challenging and requires a lot of theory knowledge as well as being familiar with the fretboard to make this work. Back to the Dream On example. If I were to copy the guitar track to the ukulele and leave it as is, even after adjusting the frets, it is just not playable. It is important to recognize that your favorite guitar music was most likely written by the guitarists themselves, and as such, the way it is played physically is important to give it its aesthetic and how it feels idiomatically on the instrument. Playing the exact same notes on another instrument might betray the original character because they won't be played on the same strings and the same technique, and in some cases it will sound forced. So you have to make a decision if the piece retains its character and playability on the ukulele using the same key, or if you have to transpose it, which is either scenario 1 we just mentioned or scenario 3 that's coming up. Out of all my arrangements, this is the least used method as the chances of it not working is too high. Ideally, I want my arrangements to stay in the same key as the original, but it's just not possible. This style of arranging I find is best suited for those who play with other instruments and have to force their arrangement to be in a certain key to consider other players involved in the project. Scenario 3. Ukulele friendly key. More often than not, I find myself taking the lookalike approach, which is scenario 1, as a base. and then I transpose that bass to a ukulele-friendly key. In Dream On, if I transpose the riff down a semitone, it becomes friendly on the ukulele because I am now in A minor, which uses both open E and open C in its tonic, and open E and possibly open G in its dominant chord, depending if you play major or minor. To transpose to a friendly key, you'd have to know the tonics, dominants, and relative keys on the ukulele, and which ones use open strings the most. Using open notes make the arrangement easier to play. And if you're a guitarist, you would know that the foundation of almost all guitar music is music based around open string key choices. So it only makes sense to do the same with the ukulele. It will also keep the piece idiomatic and not force weird fingerings onto the arrangement. There is also another hidden advantage to scenario 3, which allows you to have scenario 4 as an option. That's the one I tend to use the most recently and enjoy it quite a lot. Scenario 4. Be creative. Scenario 4 usually happens once you get some experience with the first 3 scenarios. In this scenario, you start moving away from copy-pasting and start actually arranging. This starts as a puzzle-solving process, but very quickly becomes a tool of artistic expression, mostly of your opinion on what is important and what is not, which is what makes your arrangement unique. In this scenario, you take any bass of scenario 1, 2, or 3. In my case, it is usually scenario 3, which is the ukulele-friendly key scenario, and you rearrange it to however you envision the arrangement to be. For example, in my case, I make a lot of arrangements for beginner adult students online. I have to think about their ability to play and how to simplify the music as much as possible without losing its character. If the Dream On riff is too difficult, I can remove the harmonizing line and keep the melodic line with added open strings to make it easy to play. Of course, this takes away a key character of the original riff, so I have an important decision to make: playability or musical character. Ultimately, you'll find that your choices will grow with you, and being conscious about these choices will change how you play those arrangements, and even sound better and more musical as you express yourself. In some cases, you'll make arrangements that you love so much but simply can't play, which will force you to sit and practice and become a better player. It is truly inspiring and adds a level of creative freedom that people often associate with original writing or improvisation. If you're a science or data mind-driven person like me, having this puzzle-solving approach plus the freedom to change the blocks works really well. It is very satisfying when it starts clicking together. With that in mind, there is one last scenario left. Scenario 5, arranging non-guitar music on the ukulele. This one can be both really easy or impossible. It all depends on what you're arranging, whether it is a piano sonata by Beethoven, orchestral piece by Bizet, or a jazz band fireworks by Benny Goodman. The problem here is that you have to work from the original source, which almost always seem to be in non-ukulele key, and in some cases feature multiple instruments that you need to fit all together. And let's not forget, you have to work from music notation and not just tabs. The challenge here is finding the right combination of key, layers for instruments, and being playable on the ukulele by a human. That is why my Clair de Lune or Moonlight Sonata or Deliver Us from the Prince of Egypt are so special to me. It takes me a long time to try to find just that right combination. Clair de Lune sat in my drawer for over a year before I released it, and Deliver Us was a total nightmare to arrange since there is music, workers, choir, speech, and solo female singer in the mix. But it is through these challenges that I've become creative, fast, and resourceful when making my arrangements. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I wonder, what scenario do you use the most? Please let me know in the comment section down below. Until then, here's 2 of my many favorite arrangements: Pirates of the Caribbean and Stand By Me.